Hi everybody, this is Michelle and I'm back to show you how to make the accordion file album that I made for my design team project for Country Craft Creations. We're using the Authentique Endless collection. This is an 8x8 bundle pack that I received in my design team package. The papers that I used for my first project, I used 12x12 papers, but this project is going to use the 8x8s, and I designed this project specifically so that it would work with this paper pad. So I'm going to just jump right in and get started because I know y'all have seen what I created, and now I'm going to show you how I created it. So let's get started with that. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to need to get some chipboard pieces. Again, I got these through Country Craft Creations, so you can purchase chipboard through them. Now you're going to need 3 pieces to make the body of the file album, or the accordion file album. So you're going to need 2 pieces that are 6x8, and you're going to need 1 piece that's 2.5x8. I've already prepared them because I wanted to try and do this kind of quickly, but I already prepared them by putting on the score tape. So this is also from Country Craft Creations as well, and when you're making albums and covering your chipboard, this is awesome because it takes way less time and it makes everything work really well. So that's the first thing you're going to need. You're going to need these 3 chipboard pieces. Again, they're 2 pieces that are 6x8 and then 1 piece that's 2.5x8. And then you're going to need to do your outer cover. I used the artisan cardstock from Country Craft Creations, and you need 2 pieces of this. You need 1 piece that's 10x12, and then you need 1 piece that's 5.5x10. Okay, so a piece that's 10x12 and a piece that's 5.5x10. And then I already prepared this piece by putting on my 1/4 inch score tape here so that I could attach the 2 pieces together to make one long piece of cardstock. So then I have a straight edge on this table that I'm using for my recording. So I'm just going to line it up at the bottom, make sure it's nice and straight, and then stick it down. And then you can use your bone folder. Go ahead and burnish it. I know you've seen that a lot. And then we're going to turn this over, and then we're going to line up our pieces on our chipboard, just like we always do. And we're going to have about 1 inch on each side, and we're going to have 1/4 inch in between. Okay, so real quick we'll do that. And we're going to get our ruler here. We're going to try and get this as even and straight as absolutely possible. So I think I'm going to put this along my straight edge down here. I'm going to line up my ruler to 1 inch and lay that down. And then make sure that use your bone folder of choice and try and stick it down really good, and then grab your 1/4 inch score tape and then run it down the side here. Okay, make sure that's stuck down pretty good. And then here's this piece will end up being the bottom of your file album. So we'll do that. And then again, I'm gonna, maybe I won't do it that way. Maybe I'll do it this way. And I will lay that down, making sure it's nice and straight. Okay, stick that down. And then one more time. One more time. Okay, so we're gonna do that. We're gonna line it up again, try and get it really nice and straight. And there you go. Okay, so we got that done. So this is going to cover the outer part of this accordion album. And then what I like to do, I've shown you this in previous videos, but we're going to go through it again. So when instead of doing a score line on kind of the quote-unquote wrong side, I'm going to flip it over to the right side, and then I'm going to real careful feel the edge, because you can feel that cardstock, or chipboard, excuse me, on the cardstock. And then I'm just going to real gentle, and actually I'm going to use my other bone folder because it's not quite as sharp, and I'm going to just gently go along the edge here, and that's going to help train our paper to go into the direction we actually want it to go into. So I'm just going to do that kind of gentle on all four sides of my album, because that will help, again, break the fibers and train the paper to go around the chipboard nicely, and then you won't have tears in your paper. Now, I'm using artisan cardstock from Country Craft Creations, and this stuff is amazing. It's just shy of like 90-pound weight, and it has it's linen, so I haven't had any problems whatsoever with it tearing or anything. So then after I do that, I just kind of help it train itself around. Okay, so we've got that part done, and then I'm going to take my score tape, if I can find what I do with it. There it is. And then we're going to go all the way around. We're going to cut the corners. We're going to miter the corners here, so I'm not going to go all the way to the edge to put the score tape around. I just bonked my head on the shelf that I have my camera on. And then also what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these off, and when I put the score tape on this edge of the chipboard, when I get to this part, I'm just going to tease it inside there. I'm not going to have it just lay completely straight. I want it to kind of conform around the chipboard and into that divot that's created between the pieces of the chipboard. And that's just going to help everything stick much better. Okay, so I use my fingernails. You can use a bone folder, and just tease it in there so that it's in there. It's not stretched across the pieces of chipboard like a bridge, like a score tape bridge. You don't want that. That'll help it stick better. At least in my experience, that's what it's helped. It's helped me a lot with that. Okay, so then just do this all the way around, like so. You'll notice I use my fingernails a lot for this. The score tape is super strong, and I really, really love it. And it's kind of my go-to, other than the art glitter glue. I love score tape. But it rips really easy. You can use your fingernail for it, but you can also use, the edge of a ruler, the edge of a, those fake credit cards that you get in the mail from the banks all the time. You can use that. All kinds of different things you can use to rip it, but it's just easier just for me to do that, so that's what I do. But anyway, okay, so now we've got our score tape on, and then we're just gonna miter our corners here, and you want to make sure that when you do this, the point of your chipboard, you need to have at least 1/8 of an inch. Now, it doesn't have to be like a perfect 45-degree angle. You just want to get it close, and you want at least 1/8 of an inch of cardstock over extended beyond the chipboard. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. That's probably a little more than 1/8 of an inch, but you get the gist. I wanted to show you. So you do want to have that little extra piece, because that's going to nudge in, and we're going to cover the corner of our chipboard with that. Okay, and so I just eyeball this. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Okay, all four corners. And then my little mantra for doing these is you do opposite sides, okay? So if I'm doing a photo album, like a traditional photo album, then I would do top, bottom, side to side. This is technically going to be the top and the bottom because it's going to fold up like this, okay? So my little mantra again, top, bottom, side to side. So then I just fold that over and stick it down, okay? And then fold the bottom over, stick it down. Get your bone folder, help make sure it sticks nice. Okay, and this is where we're gonna nudge our corners. So we're gonna, I take my fingernails and I just kind of push that corner in a little bit. And what it does is it kind of just wraps the cardstock right around your chipboard. And then it covers it so that when you go to flip that over, then you can see you have a nice covered corner. Hope you can see that. So it works out really nice. And then on traditional albums, when you cover this with your pattern paper or your cardstock or whatever, these edges, even if they're not 45 degrees, once you fold them, it's not going to matter because it's going to be covered up and the corners are nice and covered. Now another little trick, if you cut that too short and you do have chipboard showing, you can get a Sharpie or Distress ink and you can ink it, and then that will help cover that as well. So that's kind of a little hint. Okay, so now we've got our corners covered, and I'm just gonna run this across. I keep hitting my head on this thing. I think I need to move it down a little bit. That would probably be the wise thing to do. So then once you do that, then you're gonna want to tease the paper in between your chipboard pieces. Okay, stick it down, do it gentle, don't go too crazy because you don't want to, take a chance to rip it, but you just want to kind of nudge it in there and help it stick down. Now eventually this is going to be, this particular piece is not going to be like a book where you're going to want to open it and close it all the time. This is going to pretty much stay stationary, but you still want to do the same basic concept on this. You still want to get that in there. Okay, so that's what we're doing here, and it looks like it's nice and stuck, so this is good. And so we've got the outside. This will be the back where the seam is, and that'll be the front of our file album. Okay, next thing we're going to want to do is cover the inside, and I'm going to get a couple pieces ready and then I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. Now I have the pieces for the inner cover, so what we're going to use to cover the inside of our file album. And you're going to need two pieces that are, one is 7 1/4 by 7 7/8, and one is 7 7/8 by 7 7/8 by 7 7/8. So again, 7 1/4 by 7 7/8, and then one that's 7 7/8 by 7 7/8. Okay, and then we're going to, and the reason why I cut them like this is because I wanted the seams to kind of line up nicely, so that's why I did that. So we've got our book here. Now technically this is going to be the front because there's no seam here. This will be the back of our album, no seam there. I'm trying to put the seam kind of right in the middle of the spine of this, which will actually be the bottom of the book. Okay, so we're going to take our score tape off. I prepared them both with score tape. You want it to stick really well, so I covered the entire piece. And again, the score tape I got from Country Craft Creations in the sheets, and it's really, really awesome and easy to work with. So then I'm just going to center this nice and straight and even on the inside of what will be the front of our album. Okay, stick that down, and then take our second piece and do the same thing, nice and straight. There we go. Okay, make sure it's stuck down really nicely. This is all you're going to need to do for this particular piece of the album. We're not going to cover the inside here with pattern paper. We won't need to, because this part is basically kind of like the box of the album. So this is all we'll need to do for this. And then again, we're just going to go in with your bone folder and make sure that it gets nice and stuck in the space in between our chipboard pieces. Okay? Alright, then just kind of work it a little bit. Okay, and there we go. Alright, so now we have this part done. So the next part we're going to want to take care of here is putting in the side pieces to our album. So we're going to grab a couple pieces. Oh, actually, you know what I'm going to do first? Before I do that, I'm going to do the accordion pocket for the back. Okay, so the back of the album has a pocket, and it's going to attach right just to the back of the album, and then we're going to have tuck spots here or a pocket, excuse me, not even a tuck spot, it's a full-blown pocket for putting on our or putting journal cards and things like that in it. Sorry, I'm having a hard time talking today. Okay, so this piece, you're going to need a piece of cardstock that's 9 by 4.5. And then what you're going to do, and I already prepared this piece, but what you're going to do is put your piece in here on the 4.5, and you're going to score it here at 1/2, and you're going to score at 4, and then you're going to turn the piece to the 9-inch side, and you're going to score at 1/2, and you're going to score at 8.5. All right. Now these side pieces, once you miter them, and the bottom piece, that's going to create the hinges to put the pocket on. And then this top piece, what you're going to do is use your favorite edge punch, and then you're going to edge punch it and fold it over. And then when we get to where we're going to put our pattern paper on, and let me grab that piece just so I could show you really quick. The pattern paper will go on, and we could actually do that now. But anyways, that'll go on, this edge will go down, and then that'll create a nice pretty folded edge. Now what this is going to do is not only make a pretty edge, but it's also going to give you a more reinforced edge of your pocket and a nice folded finish. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and put that on and just get that part done. All right, we're going to get our glitter glue. I need to refill this. I'm going to put our glue on. And we're going to put it on our pocket. Now this piece of paper, I cut 1/8 of an inch less than the cardstock we're covering it, okay? So it measures 7 7/8 by 3 3/8. Okay, so that'll still give you a nice edge of the cardstock to make a border on, okay? So when we fold our pocket, it'll be nice and pretty. All right, and then I'm just going to put a little more glue on here to glue this edge down. You can use whatever punch you want to do your edge punch. You don't even have to do the edge punch if you don't want to. You don't even have to do this folded edge if you don't want to, but if you don't do the folded edge, just make sure that you cut your paper to cover appropriately, because if you don't fold this edge, then it'll need to be a little bit longer. Or wider, I guess I should say. Okay, so then that is going to go on the back. This is the back of the album where we have our where the paper's joined. That's where the that's where the back of the album is going to be. So we're going to put more glue on. And I don't think you guys can hear it because I did a test. My husband's in a band and he's practicing his guitar. He's in the garage and it didn't pick up that I could hear, so I hope that it doesn't pick up. But there we go. Okay, so that just goes on like that. Burnish that down a little bit so the glue will stick. And there we go. Okay, so that will be the back of our album. Okay, so that's easier to do before we put the sides in, for sure. Because once we put the sides in, then it's really hard to get a flat surface to put this pocket on. So you want to do that now. So that'll be the back of our album, and we have now created a pocket so we can put some journaling cards in it, pictures, whatever. Okay, so now let's go to the sides of the pocket, and you're going to need a couple pieces for that. All right. So you're going to need 2 pieces that are 6 by 5 inches, okay? And then on I did one of them already, but on the 5-inch side, we're going to do some scores. So again, these are 5 inches wide by 6 inches tall, and we're going to do some scoring. So now we're going to do this because we're going to make an accordion fold. When you make a score, that's going to end up being a mountain fold. You're training the paper to go, and you're supposed to fold it when you make that score this way. You don't want to fold it the other way because it could rip your paper. So since this is going to be an accordion where you're going to have a mountain fold, you know, mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain, valley, you really want to do them opposite of each other if you can. With this paper, honestly, I've done it the other way, you know, just done it all, and it seems to work fine. But if you're using other papers or maybe pattern paper, you really probably should do the technique where you're going to do the alternate scores to make the accordion fiber, you know, when you bend the paper, I hope this makes sense. When you bend the paper, the fibers go the proper direction, and you won't have, you'll have less chance of it breaking. So we're going to start at 1/2 inch and score, and then you're going to go to 1.5 inches, score, 2.5, 3.5, and 4.5. Okay, and then we're going to turn our paper over, and then we're going to score at 1. We're going to score at 2, 3, and 4. So you're going to have a score line on every 1/2 inch. But they're going to be opposite of each other so that when we fold this accordion, the paper does what we really want it to do, and then it also will, the inch mark or the 1/2 inch marks will line up a little better. Okay, so we're just going to start folding. I know sometimes if I don't score on the opposite side and do an accordion fold, like when you're making rosettes or something, then a lot of times it doesn't line up right, and when you fold it, the papers kind of lean and whatnot, and this tends to help also keep that straight. Okay, so we're going to need to do that again. Okay, so here's our second piece, and go ahead and fold that. Okay. Alrighty, so now we have the 2 sides to our album. These outsides are going to attach to the album and create that nice accordion for the side. Okay, so we got these 2 pieces. Now we're going to need to do the dividers. So the dividers, you'll need 2 pieces, and these You'll need 2 of them that are 9 by 5.5, and we put them in the scoreboard, and we score each of them at 1/2 and at 8.5. Okay, and that's all you need to do. So there's 2 of them. So 9 by 5.5, score at 1/2, and score at 8.5. All right, we're gonna fold our score lines here and burnish them. Okay, all right. So then what we're going to do is we're going to attach these dividers into our sides to create 3 different sections. So we're going to want to go, let's see, I'm going to count here, 1, 2, on the third fold here, 1, 2, 3, on the 3rd 1/2 inch there, we're going to attach this piece right in there. Okay, now you'll notice these are shorter. The dividers are shorter than the sides. That's what you want. Okay, I did that on purpose. You don't want them as tall as the side. You want them shorter. All right, so we're going to take the first one and we're going to adhere it to the 3rd 1/2 inch mark, so it'll sit just like that. I hope you can see that really well. Okay, so I'm going to fold that out. I'm going to get my glue, put some glue on here. And then I'm going to just line it up at the bottom, right to that score line, and glue that down. Okay, just like that. All right, so there is about 1/2 inch of a space between the divider and the top of the side. Okay, and we're going to take our second one, and this one is going to go let's see, I'm going to count them again. So let's see, 1, 2, 3. On the 4th one, the next, so you count over 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to go here. Line that up. And glue that down. All right. So, top view here, when this is accordioned up, you'll see that it's created 3, it'll create, because the back and the front will be here, it'll create 3 separate sections. Okay? So then you're just going to take your next piece, and we're going to make sure we glue it in the same configuration on the opposite side. So this one will go here, and this one will go here. Okay? Okay, so we're going to make sure that we put it in the correct one. Okay, so this one will go right there. All right, and then this guy will glue right there. Lining it up to the bottom. There we go. Okay, so then when you have this, let's see if we can get a good shot of this. I'm going to look at the camera here real quick and make sure that it looks good. Okay, so now you should have a divider section. Let me double check and make sure that looks good. Yeah, kind of. The lighting isn't good, but you can kind of see how that goes. And I'm sorry, I know it's dark. The paper is dark, which doesn't help. But anyways, that's what it should look like. And then this piece here is going to get glued into our book. Okay, so we're going to grab our book. This is the back, the front, and it's going to go on the inside, and it is going to go all the way across the book and glue to the front and the back. We're not going to glue anything to the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over and add some glue. Make sure that it's positioned so that the dividers, you know, are shorter than the sides, and you want that at the top. You don't want that at the bottom of the book. You want the piece that's shorter at the top. So just make sure when you do this, you line it up. Don't get it in the crease of the bottom of the book, because you still want the book to be able to fold. And then just layer down and stick it down. And then, let's see, how am I going to do this? There we go. Like that. Go down like that. And then you can get a bone folder in there. And the beauty of this is that it's open on the top and the bottom, so you can go on either side. Make sure you get a real good stick. Okay? And then we're just going to put the glue on and then glue it to the front part of our album. Okay, now this can be kind of the tricky part, but you put it down and then press that fold down, then you can get it where you want it. But you have to get it centered. There we go. Like that, and then grab it, and then do that. Okay. All right, there we go. Now I did try to make, when I was looking at a prototype of this, I did try to do it without the dividers. It did not work because the sides wanted to pooch out. So you really do need the dividers to help it stay positioned the way it's supposed to be. So I hope that you can see that really well. But now we have our dividers, 1, 2, 3, and we have our sides on our album. Okay. Perfect. Now the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to cover this with our pattern paper really quick. No, we're not. No, we're not. We're going to put the flap on first. Okay, so the flap for this album measures 7.5 by 8, and I put it in my album, put it on my scoreboard, and then what you're going to do is make a score at 3, and then make a score at 6.5, and then in between those two scores, you're going to want to do a score every 1/4 inch. Okay, so 3, 3 1/4, 3.5, 3 3/4, 4, and so on until you reach your 6.5 inch score, which is your stop mark. Okay, that's going to give you a 3-inch flap for the front of the album. It's going to give you an inch to attach it to your album, and then you're going to have all of these score lines across the top. Now, just like the portfolio album that I did, those are for looks. You don't want to fold them, you don't want to burnish them, because that's going to give you kind of the nice rounded top edge to your accordion file. Okay, the only scores you're really going to want to fold are the first and the last, so the ones that we did at 3 inches and the ones we did at 6.5. Okay, and then this is going to just gently roll out, and you can tease it a little bit, but don't go crazy and fold it. Okay, it's for looks, and you just want kind of a nice gentle curve. All right, so then we will miter the corners of the 1-inch mark. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to round the corners of our flap here. Like so. And then we're going to take glue and we're going to adhere this tab to the back of our album. Okay? So just like that. So grab my glue again. And we're going to put it on the inside here. Just on the 1-inch flap. And we're going to take and we're going to put it so the score line here kind of lines up with the top edge. And stick it down like that. So it's going to fold over the top edge like that. Okay. And the reason why I did the flap last, because honestly, if you do it and then try to do the sides, you're going to have a headache. Because that flap just totally gets in the way. Trust me on this one. Don't ask me how I know, okay? All right, so that's stuck down. That's the flap, back flap, and then this part will go over, and that's going to be our front of our album. So the other thing we're going to do, we need to add some ribbon and we need to add some magnets. Now, I use the magnets because it helps keep it sturdy and keep it closed. The ribbon is pretty much strictly for decoration. You can use it without the magnets, but the top will be a little more floppy than I think you want. So I went ahead and put magnets on that to kind of help it hold its shape, and then the ribbons for the beauty of them. So, because they're just gorgeous ribbon. And I'll show you the ribbon that I got in my design team package. It's so pretty, and I really wanted to use it. But with this particular album, it didn't work very well as a good closure by itself. So then when we put this down here, you're going to want that score line to match the top edge of the front of the album. So then you're going to have that nice little rounded area. And you can see this album, you can put quite a bit in it, so it's nice and fillable. That. Maybe get that tape off, or that cover off. There we go. Okay, I'm just gonna line those two up nice. Okay. All right, so now we have our magnets on, which is good. Then we'll go ahead and put a little score tape over the top of that. We're going to cover this with some pattern paper. Alrighty. So then the next thing we are going to want to do is use our beautiful ribbon. So this is the beautiful ribbon that we're going to use to tie the bow in the front, and it'll be decorative. And that needs to go on before we put our pattern paper on. Okay, so we're going to put one here, and then we're going to put one underneath the bottom, and then it'll tie in a beautiful bow down here. All right, so to do that, I'm just going to open this up. I'm going to kind of find where my center is. Now this ribbon is 2 inches wide. So we're going to, I'm just going to kind of line this up and get a little bit of score tape, put that down, and then I'm going to put the pattern paper on top, so it's going to help secure it even more, and then put it in about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, something like that. The ribbon pieces that I cut were 12 inches long. Okay, so that one's on, and then we'll do the same for the bottom. This one will be a little bit more tricky to do, but it can be done. So I'm going to kind of center that. Put some score tape there. And take my other piece of ribbon. Stick that down. So then when we close our album, we will have our beautiful ribbon bow, okay? All right, so now we need to do the pattern paper to cover everything, and so we'll need a few pieces for that. We are going to need the following. So you're going to need a 7 by 7/8 by 2 7/8. You're going to need 2 of those, and that's for the flap, the front flap of the book. You're going to need a 7 7/8 by 5 7/8 for the front. You're going to need 7 7/8 by 2 3/8 for the bottom. Okay, now we already did the pocket. In this piece, if you do this edge and fold it at the 1/2 inch mark like I showed you, you'll need 7 7/8 by 3 5/8. And then we're going to use a piece that's 7 7/8 and 5 7/8 to go underneath here, and that's going to go the full length of the pocket, because that will cover all of the tabs inside, so you won't have anything catching when you put in your pocket. Okay, so let's start with the flap. Get that out of the way. All right, so get our glue. And then I'm just gonna, just for giggles, I'm gonna just put a little bit more glue there just to make sure that it gets on the ribbon. And then I'm gonna turn this over. And I've already rounded the corners. And I also used Distress ink on the edges. Let's see. Get that stuck down. Okay, then we can take that and just okay. So just like that. Then we'll do our other one. And put that over like so. And make sure that gets all stuck down nice. Get a little more glue in this corner. The magnets stick up just a little, and even though they're nice and thin, sometimes you gotta put a little piece of added glue in there to get that corner to stick nice. Cool, there we go. All right, and our front piece. know I normally don't do all the pattern paper during my tutorials because I like to focus on the structure of the book, but I just wanted to show you how I did it this time and the order that it really needs to be in, because it just makes it so much easier to put all the pieces in. Where's my thing? There it is. Alright, so take those off, maybe. There we go. And just a piece of pattern paper down. Isn't this paper pretty? I just love it. I just love it. And I love the pop of blue. It just really stands out. There we go. Okay. So then that'll close, and then we can go ahead. Tie our bow. Isn't that pretty? Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it. Trying to get it fluffed out a little bit more, but you get the idea. Isn't that gorgeous? I love this ribbon. This came in my design team package, so they do have it at the store. So if you go to the store and get it, it's gorgeous. I knew that was going to be perfect for this. I just knew it. Okay, bottom. Bottom of the file. And you don't have to use pattern paper on the bottom of this. I mean, like, honestly, who's going to see it? But you do need something to cover the ribbon and help secure it. So you could use another piece of just plain cardstock to do that if you wanted to. I just wanted to use the pattern paper because I liked it. But you don't necessarily have to. Okay. There we go. And then the back of the book. Now this is the piece that's going to go inside the pocket. You don't have to put the glue inside the pocket. See what I mean by, so you can see that that bottom tab is going to get hung up if you put tags in there. So what I'm trying to do is cover and stick that paper in there. Cover that tab so that now when you go to put your tags and whatnot in the pocket, you're not going to have any problem with that. And they'll just slip in and they won't catch on that bottom tab at all. Okay, so what I was saying is that you don't need to put glue inside because the pocket's going to keep it in line. So put it in, line it up where you want it, and then gently lift it up, and then put your glue down. And then cover that all up. So that'll cover up the seam of the back page. It'll cover the tabs on the inside so that you won't have your tags hung up on anything. And voila, you have your album covered. Isn't that cute? So you've got a pocket on the back, you've got this beautiful ribbon bow on the front, and again, that's decoration. You don't need to use the magnets, but it does help to keep the book secure and keep it in the shape that you want it so it doesn't kind of slide around or whatever. And then when you open this up, then you have the 3 divided pockets to put goodies in, which is what we're going to do in our next tutorial. So that's the first part. I hope you liked it, and I will be back and show you more. Okay, we're back, and the first part that I did was making the outside of our accordion file album. So we have got that done, and I have it decorated now, and I just wanted to go through what I used. I used some Prima flowers that I got from Country Craft Creations to add flowers to this. The ribbon here, Comes from Country Craft Creations. I got that in my design team package. And then I also got these Graphic 45 gem dots that were really cool by Graphic 45. Anyway, I got a whole bunch of them, and I thought the gold was really good, especially since the flowers have a little bit of gold in them as well. So I did that, and then on the other side of the oh, and I just wanted to say this is a cut apart here from the paper collection that I got, and then I raised this up with a little bit of foam tape to give it a little bit more dimension. And then when I turned it over, my punch has these great circle punch areas in it, so I took some of the gem dots and I put those in those areas too to kind of brighten up the pocket a little bit. So anyways, that's what I've got done so far. And again, we're using the Authentique bundle. Endless is what we're using, and it's the 8x8 bundle that I'm using for this entire project. So the next thing we're going to do is the file folders that go inside this file album. So what we're going to need for that are 6 pieces of cardstock here, and you're going to need, oops, dropping everything on the floor. You're going to need 3 pieces that are 6 by 7, and then 3 pieces that are 6.5 by 7. Okay, they're all going to get scored at a 1/2 inch. So we're just going to go ahead and do that right now with our scoreboard. And where did, there it is. I lose everything. Okay, so we're just going to put all of our pieces in here and score it at 1/2 inch. I probably should have done this before I started the video, so you didn't have to watch, but that's okay. We'll just do it. It won't take very long. So all of them, all pieces get scored at 1/2 inch. And just so you know, I used an envelope punch board by We Are Memory Keepers to do the tabs on these. I'm going to show you exactly how to do those in just a second. Okay, so we have 3 bigger pieces, and then we have 3 smaller pieces. Okay, so one's only 6 inches wide, one is 6.5 inches wide. Okay, so the 6.5 inch ones, those are the ones we're going to punch. These we're going to leave as is. So let's just fold this, and we'll burnish these. Get that all going. Essentially what we're creating is 3 mini albums in a holder, which is kind of cool. So if you're doing a summer vacation or several different summer outings, you could do really 3 different occasions in this album. You could do one big occasion and just use all of the folders. It's totally up to you, but that's basically what we're doing, is we're creating 3 albums. Okay, so now these pieces, we're not going to do it quite yet, but just so you know, these pieces are going to attach to themselves with this 1/2 inch tab. Okay, so that's going to create a 1/2 inch gusset for your file folders, and then you're going to have this piece here where we're going to punch and create the tab pieces. Okay, so we're going to do that first before we put it all together, because it's just easier to manage that way. And then I'm going to show you how I did this. So we're going to need 3 pieces, and your first punch, you're going to take your first piece of paper, and this is going to create, we're going to have 3 tabs, so one here, one in the middle, and one on the other side. So this one here, what you're going to want to do is line it up at the 3 inch mark, and we're going to punch it. Okay, then we're going to turn it over. We're going to put it in the center of this punch here, and then we're going to punch it again, and then that's going to give us our first tab shape. Okay, now that's the first one. The third one, you're going to do the same exact thing, except you're going to want to do it on the other side. Okay, so just flip it over line it up at 3, punch, turn it over, put it in the center, and punch. Okay, so now we have the tab for the right side. And then for the center one, you're going to line it up at 2 1/4 and punch. And then you're going to turn it over, line it up at 2 1/4 and punch. Okay, so you're going to have to forgive me for a second. So I need to go back and do something here real quick. So you'll notice that I kind of told you the wrong way to do this, so we're going to fix this, okay? So we're going to start all over again. Pretend I haven't punched anything yet. So the first thing you're going to want to do on the one that's on the left-hand side, you're going to want to line it up at 3 inches, which was correct, and you're going to punch. And then what you're going to do is you're going to flip it over, and then you're going to eyeball the center of that punch, okay? So the center of this punch, just kind of eyeball it, and eyeball it at the 2 1/2 inch mark. Okay, so put the center of the bottom of that punch right at the 2 1/2 inch mark, okay? And then you're going to punch it, okay? So what this is going to do, because essentially what I did was I created a tab that was too long, but this tab is going to line up perfectly with the measurements that we did for the middle tab, okay? So all you're going to want to do, we'll do it again. So this is the other side. So we had turned it and we had put it in at 3 and we punched it, which was correct. And then what we're going to do is we're going to center that punch, and you can just eyeball it at the 2 1/2 inch mark, and we're going to punch it, okay? So that's going to make the tab the correct length, okay? Sorry about that. I knew that my notes, it was there was an arrow that I did not follow to double check the thing, so I apologize for that. But that would be, can't get that out of the way. Anyway, that's how you end up doing that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to just trim the excess off. So we're going to take our ruler and our craft knife, and we're going to line this up, and then we're going to cut the excess off. Just be careful to not cut your little tabs off. I've done that. It's not pleasant, that's for sure. Okay, so then when you do that, you're going to end up with your little tab pieces. Okay, this one needs to be trimmed just a wee bit. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there's that. So then for the first, this one here, same thing. Try and line it up nice and straight. We're gonna cut these little tabby pieces off that we don't want. Okay, just like that. All right, and the third one more time. Okay, so there's that. So now we've got our tab pieces done. This is a lot easier to punch when you're not attached to the front pieces, so that's why we're doing that first. Alrighty, so then basically all you have to do is attach them together. So get your glue. You can use score tape also if you want to. Doesn't matter, whatever you want to use. And a lot of times what I will do is I know you've seen this or seen me do this before, but I'll line it up, make sure everything's nice and straight, and then I'll fold it over, and there you go. And I lost my rag again. I try so hard to get all this stuff ready to go for these videos, and I always manage to forget something, but that's okay. Okay. All right. So that's the middle file folder right here. And we'll do the other ones. So do it like this. Gonna light it up. There we go. So these file folders will have a 1/2 inch gusset, and this is going to work out great because this is going to give us lots of room to put some elements in there. Oops. Get glue all over everything too while I'm at it, because that's always good to do. Let's see. I like this desk that I got that I'm using for my videos, but it is slippery. Alright, so there we go. Alright, so we have our file folders done for each of the 3 compartments that we created in our folder. So I'm going to get the next part ready. I will be right back. Okay, we're back, and what we're going to do is work on the first folder. So when we put it in our project, the tab will be on the left. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do is it's a waterfall, so we're going to have a waterfall on each side with pockets, so it's going to be a little more interactive. So we're going to need a couple things. We're going to need 2 closures for the waterfall, and they're both going to be 2 inches by 5 inches, and then we're going to stick them in our scoreboard, and we're going to score them at 3/8 and 1/2 of an inch. And what that's going to do is give us an 1/8 inch gusset so that we can accommodate all the pages in our waterfall. Okay, so both of those get scored at a 1/2 inch and 1/8, or 1/2 inch and 3/8. So you get that nice little gusset. Okay, so 1/2 inch and 3/8. All right. Then what we're going to do is I've already pre-cut and inked my papers because we're going to have to put those down as well. So you're going to need 2 of those to cover the book. We're going to put the waterfall on first, and then we're going to put the papers on. So these papers, let's see, this one measures 5.5 by 6 7/8, and this one's 6 7/8 by 5 3/8. So measure your pieces and make sure, because they are going to be a little bit different. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our closures. Now we're going to have one of the waterfalls is going to open like this and flip up, and the other one's going to be exactly the opposite. Okay, so we're going to put some glue on here. I need to clean my tip. And then I'm going to fold it on the 3/8 inch mark, and I'm going to get my ruler because I want to have it sent. Whoop! I'm going to have my. Let's get rid of this. It's going to make me crazy. Okay, and then we're going to center it on that page, right about there. And then I'm going to lay this down and glue that down. No need to miter the corners on this one because we're going to cover it with the pattern paper. I keep getting, there we go. I've got like all the steps lined up. I'm trying to get this organized, but now I'm just making a mess. All right, so that's going to go like that, and then the paper will cover that. So we can go ahead and put that down too. Isn't this paper pretty? It's so bright. All right, put that down. There we go. Okay, so that one's done. Now we're going to repeat the process with the other side, and I'm just going to make it easy on myself and turn it upside down so I can see it. And again, put a little bit of glue on here. Just refilled my glue bottle too, and it's spitting at me. Okay, so we're going to measure and try and center that. There we go. 2 inches goes right about there. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we've got those pieces ready to go. All right. And put this down. All right. So these two, this is important to cover your closures. All right. I'll be back. Okay, so now we're back and we're going to work on our waterfalls. Now they're going to be on each side of the folder. One side will open, so there's a pocket here, and the other side will have a pocket that goes in here. And then they're closed with a magnet closure, and they will have 3 pages that flip up, and then the back of this is the pocket that will actually hold another piece, and these will hold 3x4 pictures. So each side will have that. So you're going to need a few pieces of cardstock, and the waterfalls measure 5 by 3.5, and they're all scored at 1/2 inch. So you'll need 3 of those, and then you'll need your pocket piece, which I already kind of worked on here, and it measures 7 by 4, and you're going to score at 1/2 inch on 3 sides, and you're going to miter your corners like we do for pockets, okay? And this is going to build the base for our waterfall. So let's get that out of the way. Let's fold and burnish. You're also going to need, of course, magnets. So I got that ready to go. All right, so fold our tabs because we're going to build off the base here, and we want to make sure that we don't put the waterfalls on our tabs. We want it right at the score line, okay? So this one is going to lay on here like this so that the pocket comes out here. This one, the pocket comes out here. So we're going to start at the bottom and we're going to build up. So we've got this first piece, and we'll just fold our tab. Do that, and then lay it down, lining it up with the bottom and the side, and burnish it down. Okay. And then just like all the waterfalls, these will just butt up against the tab of the one before it. Just line it up nice and straight. Yeah, pretty easy to do this part. Okay, and then our last one here. Like so. And again, line it up. There we go. So now we have our waterfall created. So this waterfall is going to go the opposite direction. So this one flips up. This one is going to flip down. And the pocket is going to be on the side here, okay? So we will just put our glue on, and then we will center it and glue it down. So let's do that. And then try not to get my hair in the way. I'm going to eyeball that. like so. Glue that top one down. And then we're going to do this. Ah! Glue art, love it. Okay, just like that. Okay. All right. So then the last piece of this is to just go ahead and set your magnet. And then this will all get covered with the pattern paper of your choice. Just make sure when you put the magnet down that you keep your gusset for the closure. Don't pull it down tight. You want that 1/8 inch to put it in there. So there you go. So that first folder, the elements are done for that. So then just decorating as you desire. Okay. So then the last piece you want to do with this particular folder is you want to go ahead and you want to put your seam binding on, because these folders will have a seam binding closure. And on the folder that has the left and the right tab, we'll put the seam binding right in the middle so it ties a nice bow at the top. Okay, so basically all we have to do for that, just get a little score tape, and we'll go in the middle of our album here, and I'll center this so I know where my middle point is, roughly. Put a little score tape there, and then take our seam binding, put that down, and then the pattern paper will go right over top of that. Okay, and then a quick and easy way to do the other side is just lay this down, and then you can see where it's going to line up. And there you go. Okay, so now our seam binding is on, and then when we're done with our album, oops, excuse me, when we're done decorating and everything, then this will just tie in a nice little bow and keep everything nice and pretty for when we put it in our file. Okay, so that's folder number 1. Okay, folder number 2 has a few pieces that's going to fold out, so it's kind of a portfolio style thing. So folder number 2 again has the middle punch that we did, and we're going to create some flaps. So we're going to need a few pieces here. So you're going to need 4 pieces for a top and bottom flap that are 4 by 5. Okay, so you'll need 4 of these, so they're 4 by 5, and we're going to score each one of them at a half. Okay, all 4 of those. So those are what I'm calling the top and bottom flaps. And then we're going to need some side flaps. You'll need 2 of these. All right, and they measure 5 3/4 by 6 3/4, and again, you're going to score it at a half. Okay, so 5 3/4, 6 3/4, scored at half. And then we're also going to need a couple pieces of pattern paper, because we'll need that to build on this particular page, and the pattern paper will sit on top of our flaps. And the pattern paper measures, let's see, 5 1/8 by 6 5/8. So we'll need 2 of those that go on these flaps. And then we're going to need a trifold piece. We're going to need 2 of those, and these measure 9 3/4 by 4 1/4. And we're going to put those in our scoreboard, and we're going to score at 3 1/4 and 6 1/2. Okay, so this is 9 3/4 by 4 1/4, and we're going to score at 3 1/4 and 6 1/2, and we're going to do that to both of the pieces. Okay, and the next thing we're going to need, actually, I'm going to just stop right there for a second. We're going to just build this thing. So let's build this thing. So the folder on the inside, we don't have to paper it on the inside yet, okay? We're going to put our top and bottom flaps on and our side flaps. So I'll do 2 of them, and then I'll do the other side off camera because it's just going to be exactly the same. And then we'll come back and I will show you the trifold. Okay, so this flap here is going to center on your piece like that. Okay, it's not going to go the entire width of your folder. It's not supposed to. So you don't necessarily have to miter the corners because the pattern paper will go ahead and cover that. Okay, so, and what you're going to do is you're also going to line it up clear to the edge of the folder piece. Okay, so right to this edge of the folder piece. So there's going to be a little overhang over here, but right here you're going to want it right to the edge. So let's get our glue. And we're going to center it top and bottom, but we're going to put it right to the folder edge on the side. Okay, let's try and get that a little straighter. Okay. Just like that. Okay, so now what we've got is our folder with a side flap. And then we're going to take our top and bottom flaps and we're going to get our glue. We're going to center it in that piece, but we're going to put it clear to the edge, the bottom of the folder. So I'm going to just eyeball this here. I'm going to get it right in the middle. And I'm going to put it right at the edge of the folder. Okay, so now we have the bottom piece, and then the top piece will lay like that. And it should there we go, just like that. Get it upside down so I can see it better and not get my head in the way. What did I do with my scissors again? Okay. Trim that off. My cutter didn't do a very good job with that. Okay, so do this. Now I'm using my previous piece as a guide to try and get it as straight as absolutely possible. Okay. All right, there we go. So that piece is done. Okay, so we're going to do the same on the other side. So I'll do this part here with the trifold, and then we will go ahead and I'll come back and I'll have this part finished. So I'm gonna nudge this over a little bit because for some reason it's a little bit crooked. That's okay because you can do that with paper. It's kind of nice that you can nudge it a little bit and get a little more straight. Okay, so we need to cover this piece, this flap that we made, the side flap, so that we could add our trifold. So I've already pre-inked it with my distress ink, so I don't have to do that. And you don't have to do the distress ink if you don't want to. Some papers scream for distress ink because it's already kind of vintagey looking anyway. Other papers are so clean that I don't honestly like putting ink on the edges if the paper is clean, you know, if the designs are nice and clean and not quite so vintage. So it's all personal preference, obviously. There you go. Okay, so there's that. All right, so now we have this first side done. The second side's going to mirror it. So we have our flaps, we have our top and bottom, and then we have our flap here. We're going to put a trifold on here. It's a little nice interactive element. So this trifold is going to sit there. So we're just going to fold to make a Z shape. And here they are. I don't know why my cutter didn't do such a very good job. Okay. And so this one, I think I want it to open out that way. And so all we're going to do is we're going to glue this down, but we are going to need to put a little piece of ribbon behind it so that we could tie it together. You could use magnets if you wanted to as well, but I'm going to use ribbon on this. So I put a little score tape on it and attached my ribbon. This ribbon is from my stash. And then I'm just going to add my glue. And I'm going to flip this over, and then I'm going to center it on this piece. Okay. Well, this is, will hold 3x4 photos, 3x4 journaling cards, and it'll be a nice, fun, interactive piece with this. All right, so, I'll be back after I finish the other side, and then I'll have you see the final piece. Okay, so folder number 2 is finished as far as the basic construction of it, and what we did was we added, both sides are exactly the same. There's trifolds that will open up and create places for several 3x4 pictures, because it opens up like that and ties with a pretty bow. Both sides are exactly the same, and then this will open up, and then they will open up again. And my thoughts are that we're going to have free kind of laying photo mats and things like that in here that will hold them down, but you could also do some fun things with the sides as well, you know, put some photo mats here and things like that. So anyways, that is folder number 2 with the middle tab. So then it'll close real pretty right here with a pretty little bow. All right, so there's that. So now this one here, remember we closed the first folder with seam binding at the top, but we're not going to want to do that on this one because it'll be in the way, because that tab is in the middle. So what we're going to do with this one is do it around the side. So on the back of the album, we're going to turn it over, and we're going to grab our ruler again and our score tape, and then we're going to find the middle spot here, which is hard to see when you're looking at it sideways, and it's right about there. Put a little piece of score tape there, and then lay our seam binding right like that. And then again on the other side, in a handy dandy way of making sure that we kind of get it right here. There we go. Which of course this time didn't work, but that's okay. That's okay. All right, there we go. So right in the middle, about there, right about there. Okay. And then we're going to cover this obviously with pattern paper, and then this will tie with a bow in the front. Like so. Maybe, if I can get my fingers to work. There we go. Okay. All right, folder number 2. So we've got number 1, we've got number 2. Now let's work on number 3. Okay, folder number 3, we're going to need a few pieces. So we're going to make a pocket piece with 2 pockets, and it's going to be able to accommodate 4x6 cards really nicely. So we're going to need 2 pieces for the small pocket. You're going to need 2 pieces at 3.5 by 5, and we're going to score them on the 3. So score it 3.5 by 5, score it at 3, score it at 1/2, and score it at 4.5. Okay, we're going to do that for both pieces. So let's do it the way I did it. 3.5 by 5, score it at 3, turn it, 1/2, and 4.5. Okay, so we need 2 of those, and then our large pocket is going to be scored on just 2 sides. Our large pocket is 6.5 by 4.5. Okay, 6.5 by 4.5, and we're only going to score it on 2 sides. So we'll score it at 4, and then we'll turn it and score it at 6. Okay, so we'll need one like that. Now we're going to score the other one the opposite, because we want the scores to actually go the way we want our paper to go. Okay, so we'll score this one at 1/2, and then we'll turn it and score it at 1/2. Okay, so our pockets are opposite. All right, so then we're going to get rid of this, and we're going to grab our folder. So this is folder number 3 with the tab that will be on the right side. And when we lay our pockets down, we're going to want the pockets to open up this way. So we're going to want the scores on this side for this pocket. We're going to want it on this side for this pocket. Okay, so this will be the right side. And we'll need a large pocket and a small pocket for each one. Okay, so we're going to miter the corners. With that one, we'll miter the corners of this one while we're at it. And then I'm going to do a little folding. Okay, on the 3 sides. And then we'll do some folding on this one. And again, we only scored on 2 sides. Like that. Okay, so this one is going to lay here. And this this pocket, this little pocket will lay on top like that. So you'll have a space here, and then you'll have a pocket here. So all we do is grab our glue and put our glue on. Making sure we get the pocket in the right direction, and then lay that down on top of there, like that. Okay, so now we have created our small top pocket. Then these tabs here we'll glue right here. Now we're going to put it to the edge of the paper at the bottom and right before the score on our folder. And again, if you don't want to use glue or can't get it or whatever, you can use score tape. Don't go in to the score, go right to the edge of the score so that your folder still will fold the way it's supposed to. Okay, and there you go. So now you will have a side pocket. So if we put it in the right orientation, so when you open it up, there's a pocket here, and then there's a pocket here. Okay, we're just going to do the same thing to the other side. corners for our small pocket, miter our corners for our large pocket. Now it will be setting opposite, so remember that when you do your scoring and when you're laying your pockets down, you want to make sure you lay your pockets so that the opening is the correct orientation. Okay. All right. So I've got my orientation the way I want it. Got my small pocket. Like that. All right. We're going to lay this right on top at the edge. Okay, then we're going to put glue on the tabs here. Like that. And then again, don't go in the score line. Just go right to the edge of the score line and right to the edge of the bottom of your folder and put it down. And voila! You have your third piece done. Now in your cutting guide, I have in the list and also on the PDF that I will have on my blog, a couple of tags for this folder. So I cut a couple pieces of cardstock that were 6 1/4 by 4 1/4, and these tags are going to go in this giant pocket here. Okay, so we'll cover those with pattern paper, or you can put your pictures on there because they will hold 4 by 6 pictures, but that is the intent of those tags. So that's folder number 3, and then this one is going to be tied at the top, and we're going to get our seam binding, and let's do again what we have done before. A little piece of mitered corner in my way. We'll line that up. A little piece of score tape and set our seam binding down, turn it around, do the same thing. Whoops. Do it this way so I can see it better. Okay. Okay, there we go. So now when this folder closes, we want to put it into our accordion file. There you go. So we'll have our folder, and it'll have a pretty closure. So then what we're going to do is I'll show you. I'm going to trim these later, but what did I do with, there it is. So we have our file, our accordion file that we've already created. So we'll open this up, and then all of our beautiful little folders that we're doing will go right in there. And there you go. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I had a lot of fun making it. Make sure you go to Country Craft Creations and get the Endless collection from Authentique. And you can get the Prima flowers there too as well. The gem dots, everything that you need to make this project is there, including the chipboard and the magnets. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please, if you have any questions, let me know. Remember to look at there's a cutting list in the description below, but there's also a link to my blog, so I have a visual kind of cutting guide so we can maximize the use of our cardstock and know how to cut it in the different pieces so that we can have everything ready for your album, and with little waste to our cardstock. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you liked it again, and have a really good day. Stay crafty. Bye.